You've conducted your survey and you have your data. Now what? You have to put it into a format, a data file, that will allow you to conduct statistical analysis. This video should help you do just that. In fact, there are 3 videos in this series. This one focuses on manually entering data into Excel, specifically getting ready for data entry, an overview of the entire process, including merging data from online surveys, and then how to actually key data into Excel. The next 2 videos in this series will focus on how to deal with online survey data and then combining multiple files into one master file that you can then import into a statistical package such as SPSS. So if you are conducting multimodal research, meaning you have gathered data using 2 or more different data collection methods, it makes sense to watch these videos sequentially. I'm assuming that, with the knowledge of how to format questions for coding and analysis, you have set up your survey instrument to make it as easy as possible for you to perform the data entry task. Regardless of the research method, to get ready for data entry, you will need to have the final questionnaire or survey instrument, and a hard copy usually works better than an electronic copy for this. This will have all of the questions and all of the possible responses on it. You can make a copy of a completed survey form or have a fresh copy printed out. And of course, you'll need the hard copies of any completed questionnaires, the ones you completed by telephone or handed out to respondents or what got mailed in. And although we aren't focusing on this here, assuming you are conducting surveys via the web, you will need the data file you downloaded from your online source, such as Google Forms or SurveyMonkey, exported into an Excel format. For ease of discussion, we will assume that you are using Microsoft Office's Excel program for your spreadsheet, Google Forms for your online survey data collection, and SPSS for your statistical analysis package. But these steps should apply to other programs as well. Before we get into how to enter the data, let's go through a brief overview of the entire process, including how and when you might include online survey data. Let's start with the hard copies of your surveys, the completed questionnaires or response forms. Your first step would be to assign case numbers to each questionnaire or response form. This way, if you later find an error in the data file you create, you will be able to go back to the original document or record to check. Write the number in the upper right-hand corner. These case numbers need to be unique, only one case number 1 and only one case number 2, etc. Now look over your data for accuracy. Did someone answer questions that were supposed to be skipped around? Or code 2 answers on a question that only asked for 1? It's really helpful to notice and correct these errors now rather than when you are in the midst of computer analysis. Then you'll key in the data from your hard copy questionnaires into an Excel file. Although this video focuses on these 3 steps, it's helpful to know what you might do if you needed to include survey data gathered from an online source, starting with downloading the data file into Excel. And then, just as you did for hard copy questionnaires, you would assign case numbers to each record in the electronic file. They need to be different case numbers than the ones you assign to the hard copy questionnaires. Now, the case numbers don't have to continue on where the hard copy numbers left off. You may decide, for example, to start numbering the online survey data at case number 501. It's very likely that the data file from the online survey lists the actual answers in text rather than number form. So your next step would be to convert those answers into numeric codes. And we'll go over this later. And then finally, you'll need to combine the 2 files. The one you keyed in manually, which is what we're focusing on, and the one you may be downloading and adjusting from your online source. If you're lucky, everything will match up perfectly and it's just a matter of copy and paste. Regardless, once you're finished, you should be able to copy and paste this data file directly into SPSS. I know I glibly say key in the data, but you probably don't know how. The first step, though, is to convert the answers on the questionnaire to numeric codes. Look at this sample questionnaire. You'll recognize question 1 as a multiple response question, so you know that instead of it being only one question, it's really 5 separate questions. So you can convert this section to question 1A, 1B, 1C, etc. And the answer to question 1A then is yes, or once we convert it to a number, a 1. The answer to question 1B is a no or a 2, and so on. And the same goes on with question 2. Notice, however, that on question 2, the E question is really a branch question, asking what other kind of device or platform they may have used to read an electronic version of a book. For the sake of this example, we'll call this question 2E other. And the answer to this question, 2E other, is special device from work. Now, question 3 asks the name of the last book they have read, and this is a true open-ended question. And the answer in this case is one of my favorite, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. You'll recall that you can content analyze and code the answers to open-ended questions, so you might want to do this here. If you do, you would likely add another question. We'll call it question 3A, which would include the code, but we're not going to use that example right now. Now we can go to question 4, and the answer is occasionally, so that's a 3. On question 5, the answer is a 2. Here are those questions and their associated answers for the first questionnaire, or the first case. Now we open up an Excel file. In the top row, you will type in those question numbers in the order that they appear on your questionnaire. And then each subsequent row will represent a unique case. Think of it as each row is a questionnaire, or each row is the respondent who completed the survey. In each row, the first column would be the case number, the one you wrote in the upper right corner of each completed questionnaire. And then all of the answers are keyed into the associated fields. Question 1A's answer of 1 goes into the B2 cell. Question 1B's answer of 2 goes into the C2 cell, etc. So now we've keyed one case. We continue keying each questionnaire or each case in the same manner. The columns represent the questions and the rows represent the cases. Pay attention to the logic here. Notice that for this survey, an answer of no on Q1E, or a 2, should result in the respondent answering all of question 2 with a no, or 2s, and skip question 3. If you notice that there is a 1 somewhere in the question 2 series, it's time to go back to the original questionnaire to see if you made a data entry error. And of course, if you did, you'd fix it. Ideally, you should validate the data entry to check for accuracy. The best but most time-consuming method is to double enter the data, meaning someone else would key in the data again. Then you would compare the two files, and you can do this in Excel by typing in a formula. If you find an inconsistency, it's time to go check. And again, of course, fix it. Less time-consuming is to conduct a random check of a sample of cases, say 10%. So if you have 400 cases, you would pull out 40 cases at random, rekey them, and then check them against the original keyed file. The goal, of course, is to minimize the likelihood of measurement error due to data entry. Processing time. What steps should you follow in creating a data file? What is the purpose of assigning a unique case number to each of the completed questionnaires? And how would you enter your data into Excel? Remember, if when you are conducting your statistical analysis, you discover an error or want to adjust your data file, you can always back up a few steps and correct the error. Or if you end up getting more surveys, you can add them into your Excel data file and follow the steps again. This will allow you to just append the new data by copying and pasting the additional data directly into SPSS. But regardless, you are now one step closer to actually seeing the results of your research.